The Holy Gospel according to Matthew.
Glory to you, O Lord.
In the time of King Herod, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem, asking, "Where is the child who has been born King of the Jews? For we observed his star in its rising, and have come to pay him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was frightened, and all Jerusalem with him. And calling together all the chief priests and the scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Messiah was to be born. They told him Bethlehem, and in Bethlehem of Judea, for so it has been written by the prophet, "And you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For from you shall come a ruler, who is to shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod secretly called for the wise men and learned from them the exact time when the star had appeared. Then he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "Go and search for them diligently, and when you have found him, bring me word, so that I also may go pay him homage." When they had heard the king, they set out. And there ahead of them went the star that they had seen at its rising, until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw that the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. On entering the house, they saw the child with Mary his mother, and they knelt down and paid him homage. Then opening their treasure chests, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they left for their own country by another road. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ.
Please be seated. May the light of the star of Christ shine upon us this day and throughout our journey of Epiphany. Epiphany, an experience of sudden and striking revelation. Or for us Christians, it's a feast celebrating the manifestation of the divine nature of Jesus to the Gentiles, as represented by the Magi. Okay, so in other words, Epiphany is when the Magi, who were Gentiles, realized that the toddler Jesus was king. It's really what today we celebrate. So Epiphany is celebrated 12 days after Christmas. So that would be January 6th. We don't want to be here January 6th. It's not what we do as Lutherans generally. So we don't get to celebrate Epiphany often. We celebrate Christmas and Sunday Christmases. We get to celebrate those every year, but not Epiphany. So I wanted to give you Epiphany today. Hence the different readings. The hymn of the day will be different. It will be We Three Kings, which is in your bulletin. Because today is important. We'll call today Wednesday, but we know that it's Wednesday, but we'll celebrate it today. Okay, so as you heard in the reading, first off, I'm sure you're not in shock or awe, but I know the children are when they hear it. But the wise men don't get to Jesus until he's like 2, just before he's 2. So like, I don't know, 22 months or something. So they really shouldn't even be in the manger scene, but unfortunately that's what we teach our children. Unless, Eric, you want to like build a house, then we can take the manger down, put up a house, take away all the animals, bring in the wise men, have a toddler Jesus. You know, we could do that. But I'm thinking Eric doesn't want to do that. So, our wise men pay homage to our baby, Jesus, in our stable. Inaccurate, yes, but the gift is there. That's what we celebrate today. In fact, in Ethiopia, Christmas isn't that big of a deal. For them, they celebrate Epiphany. and they celebrate it with the remembrance of their baptism as Jesus was baptized by his cousin John. And they recommit their baptisms. Many of the churches in Ethiopia have cross-shaped pools. Not like you could swim in, but they're pools. And so the highest priest in that parish takes a cross. It's a special cross. And they dip it into the cross pool. And they get it all filled with water. And then they spray it all over their congregation. Now, it's kind of cold. I didn't think y'all would appreciate being wet. So we won't be demonstrating that today. But you get the idea. So that's one aspect of the Ethiopians' celebration of Epiphany. And the other thing that they do on Epiphany is they give gifts. For our children who believe, she went back to Sunday school?
Yes.
Okay. Who believe in Santa, we hang up stockings, and in hopes that Santa will fill our stockings and perhaps bring us a gift. In Ethiopia, the children in their shoes put hay or straw. Doesn't that sound like fun? The night before Epiphany. And when they wake up in the morning, the hay is gone and there is a gift. So it is imagined that the hay is for the camels, for the wise men's journey to continue on to Bethlehem. And in response to their gift to the camels, the wise men, the magi, however you'd like to refer to them, leave them a gift of appreciation. And this is a huge celebration, big feasts of food. It just sounds like the coolest thing. The pictures are beautiful and filled with color. There's dancing in the streets, and it's a beautiful celebration. So unfortunately, we as a Protestant faith don't give much credence to Epiphany, but we should. And here is why. What we read in Matthew was, "And there ahead of them went the star that they had seen at the rising, until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw that the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. On entering the house, they saw the child with Mary his mother, and they knelt down and paid him homage. Then opening their treasure chest, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh." Gold. The Magi were the first Gentiles who have recognized the child as God's and as king. Frankincense were given for the worshiping of this king, and myrrh to honor him in his death. But I want to propose to you that there are other gifts in this story that we don't think much about. Let's start with the star. The star that led the Magi to Jerusalem was a gift to God, from God to them, so that they may find their way to the baby Jesus. But the star stops at Jerusalem. They see it at its rising. They don't see it again until they reach Jerusalem. Here's a surprise gift: Herod. Had Herod not wanted to be so snarky and find this baby Jesus himself, he never would have told the wise men where the baby Jesus was. Well, toddler Jesus was. So, if Herod hadn't been who Herod was and was afraid for his own self-preservation, Magi would not have found the baby Jesus. So, we have the star and we have Herod. And we have the star again, because once they're told where baby Jesus is, the star shines over his house, is what we are to presume. So the Magi find the baby Jesus. What would it look like if the star had not shone and had Herod not been so deceitful? I don't know. But there's a third gift that we can't forget, and that is the gift of the dream that all three Magi shared. They were told in the dream that if you head back to Herod, there will be big trouble. So when they left after honoring the baby Jesus, they went home on a different route, avoiding Herod entirely. Had they went back to Herod, he would have had them killed, because now Herod had a timeline of when this baby could have been born, and he knows it's 2 years or less. So every male child, as you all can recall from this beautiful story, if you were 2 years or younger, your child, male, would be killed. Had the wise men gone back, where would we be today? So not only did we get 3 gifts for the baby Jesus, we got 3 gifts from God: a star, Herod, and a dream. Think about that. Okay, so how could you imagine if those things hadn't come to us? How could you imagine to live in continual sin? Because that's where we would be today. How could we live with no hope in a future with God? It was these Magi's that gave us all these gifts. They came to see the baby, they gave these odd gifts, and they left. We see them in the manger for just such a short period of time, but perhaps I think the wise men are the most important part of the visitors that came to Jesus. Perhaps now you have had an epiphany of what Epiphany is about, or maybe an epiphany, a realization about the Magi. Our biggest I get it in Epiphany, I hope, is that you realize that you too are a Magi. You may not have come to church today on a camel or a donkey or an elephant, and you may not be a king or an astrologer or a wise person. You may not have gold, frankincense, or myrrh in your pockets, but you are a Magi because you bring your treasure chest filled with gifts to Jesus every day. When you open your home for fellowship to those who would have nowhere else to go for a holiday, you are being a gift. You give a gift to God's children. When you serve on a board, you teach Bible study, or you bake cookies for coffee hour. Whoever you are, whatever you do, you bring gifts. For the next 35 days of Epiphany, which starts Wednesday, I want you to see how you are a gift, or how someone has been a gift to you, as the Magi truly were a gift to us. Over 2,000 years later, we still celebrate the gifts that the Magi bring. I don't think I will ever give a gift that lasts that long, but perhaps we can try. So now, I invite you to go over to the paper on the wall, grab a sticky note and write, there's sticky notes and pens, write a gift that you could give during our time in Epiphany, and then on the other side of the paper, I would like you to write a gift you could use during Epiphany. And then after worship, let's read both sides and then maybe talk about what our gifts and our needs look like during fellowship, and see where those gifts and conversations could lead us. So Ron, if you'd stop the camera now, because the sermon part is